Welcome to Widowed Too Soon, where real-life widows and widowers come together to share their stories of survival, faith, and the journey of finding hope in the darkest of times. Whether you're newly widowed or have been on this journey for some time, each week we're here to provide you with inspiration, practical advice, and the reassurance that you are not alone. You were made to not only survive, but thrive. And now here's your host, a woman who has walked this path herself, who finds solace in writing, joy in speaking, and freedom in dancing like nobody's watching. Michelle Bader Ebersole.
Welcome to Widowed Too Soon. This is Michelle Bader Ebersole. This week, I am all by myself. You know, every time I say that, I want to sing all by myself. Don't want to be. As you guys know, I'm not a singer, but I still, since like 4 years ago, no, three and a half, however long I've been doing the podcast, I always sing it. So, gotta sing it. Anyways, I thought it would be good to come on here and do a few things, give you an update, because I don't do that anymore. If you guys are avid listeners, you remember that Mark and I used to always do updates. And then when I switched to interviews, I kind of stopped doing it. And so I thought today I would give you an update on a lot of things in my life, and then also go into frequently asked questions that widows ask. And so that's what we're going to do today. Loving the interviews. In fact, I have, I think, 4 more recorded at this exact moment, ready to go. It's been exciting. Like, people just keep coming and wanting to be interviewed. And as you guys know, the stories are awesome. They're super helpful to everybody because everyone has like different kinds of stories. And so to be able to share their stories that are different than mine, they can relate to you. And it's been a beautiful, beautiful thing. So many more good ones coming. So it's been an awesome change to go completely, not completely, but 90% interviews. But today I thought I would do those things I just talked about. So let's see. What do I want to update you on? Well, as of in 3 more weeks, Joel and I will have been married 2 years. I cannot believe that. March 18th will be our 2-year anniversary. Like, it feels like the other day. And a lot of you have been listeners since we were engaged, since before we were engaged, and have followed the whole journey. So it's been an absolutely beautiful journey. I just, like, right before this, saw a video that Cheryl, one of my good friends who's been on the podcast, sent to me. And it was about like loving again as a widow. Okay. So it showed, like, let's pretend if you can see this. This is a cup and it's like full to the top, right? So this is my love for Luke, my first spouse. It's completely full to the top. Well, what's going to happen when I date again? Well, this is still going to be full to the top. And then this one, this is another cup. This is my love for Joel. They're both equal. They're both full, but I will love both of them. It's kind of like when your love expands as a parent. I thought that was such a beautiful way to show how you're still like, the new love is going to get their own cup, and it's not going to take away. I'm not pouring out like some of the love I have for Luke. That's still there. I still love Luke completely, and I love Joel completely. So I know some of you might be baby widows and like, I don't even want to think about dating, and that's totally fine. But that's where I'm at. My love has grown completely for Joel while still respecting and loving Luke. And it's been an amazing 2 years of marriage. Like, sometimes I can't believe it. We are going to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico to celebrate. And it's just such a beautiful thing. Love after loss. And I've actually experienced watching a lot of you, my friends I've made through the podcast, fall in love, get married again, see the whole thing. And it's actually such a beautiful thing. I think it's because you really, as a widow, like, really know how to love every moment, to really just enjoy every single moment. And that's actually one of the things Joel said that he fell in love with me about, is that I really just have a different way of looking at life, and I'm really into just carpe diem. Like, I did that a lot when Luke was sick. It was like, let's just enjoy every single moment. And that's carried on to the rest of my life, of like, life is a gift. It's precious. Let's enjoy it. Let's have fun. So that's a little bit about Joel and I. My kids are doing well. Haley is in her first year of college at Corbin University. She's a freshman. She's studying to be a music teacher, and she's already in the music classroom, which I think is brilliant. You know, when I went to school for teaching, you didn't go into the classroom till your senior year. Well, this college said, we want to make sure people like it, like the kids like it. So we're going to start them their freshman year. And she's loving it. She is so good with kids and music, and it's such a perfect fit for her. And she's singing in choir. She has a great roommate, lots of great friends. Like, it's really just better than I imagined. She did not want to go away to college and like live in a dorm. And I knew she would love it if she did it. So she's thriving and doing well. My other two boys are home. Hayden is almost 21, and he went to college for 2 years, but now he is just staying home and working and figuring out his life. Peyton just turned 17, and he's doing all virtual school. I let him go from homeschool to like part-time school to going virtual. And he actually does better at virtual. So, you know, whatever. He still sees his friends. He has his license now. He meets his friends at the gym. They go hang out and do their gym thing. And yeah, and I'm still going to the gym 3 times a week, lifting weights 3 times a week. And then, usually do Zumba or running or something like that. But the weightlifting is so important as we age. Women lose, I think it's like a pound or so a year after the age of 35. Like, we lose a lot of muscle. And so it's so important for us to keep in the gym. I love it. I mean, sometimes I hate it, but I love the good that I know it's doing for me. And that's really important to stay strong. Joel and I have been doing new things. We did racquetball the other day, which was so fun. And then we played indoor soccer. And as you guys know or don't know, depending how new of a listener you are, and if you've heard my story that I've shared a couple times, Luke was not active because he had a prosthetic leg, tons of pain. And back when we were dating, yeah, but then as soon as we got married and everything changed, he never got to do those things with me. And so I'm really enjoying having a marriage where my husband is able to do things with me, and it's completely different. I never experienced this in my whole life, and I'm really really loving it. A little bit about my family. We're doing really really well. Some exciting things with the nonprofit. So, as you guys may or may not know, and if you're a new listener, this is boring, you can just fast forward on through this. This is mostly for those who like want to know more about me, or my old listeners who I haven't updated in so long. So the nonprofit Widow Goals, I started this about 3 years ago. And this podcast is actually under the nonprofit, as well as scholarships for grief recovery, events, and retreats. And I've been doing events for a couple years. And I started it because in my area, Vancouver, Washington, there was nothing, no widows groups, no churches had anything. I've heard there might be a church around here that does now, but there was nothing when I started. And so I decided to start a group for widows. And so we meet once a month, usually in different people's homes. We started out in a coffee shop, and then now we know each other. So we just kind of rotate homes. This past week, we did vision boards, which was really fun, cutting out things in magazines, putting them on boards, and we just talked, and it was so great. And so a few months ago, Karen Kindle, shout out to you. So she started her group about a year ago, and then we decided to merge her with Widow Goals. And so she started that, and then we asked some other people to also do groups in their area. So we launched in 6 locations in about, I would say, November-ish. We had all 6 locations going. And it was amazing. And it worked so well that there were 5 of us who got together in Scottsdale, Arizona, 5 of the leaders, and we had a great time. And we made training videos for future leaders. Then we got home. I opened up the application, and right away, let's see, I had 45. Actually, I think there were 47 applications, but 2 were men. So unfortunately, this is only for women. So out of the 45, I've talked to like 20 some, like we have 20 new groups somewhere around there. I can't even keep track. I will put a list of, there's going to be a link that says Widow Goals groups. You can go to it. It's in the show notes. It will show you all the places that we have groups, and then how we do it is we actually put all of our groups on Facebook, and you can find all the events there. So that's something really exciting happening, is the growth. We even have one that's going to start soon in South Africa. We have one in Canada, and then a whole bunch in the US, which is so crazy. We have 5 in Washington, the state I live in. And it's not like I even reached out to people in Washington, it just happened. So that's really exciting. I'm going to be out visiting those groups soon. Let's see. California has 3, Florida has 2, and lots of states have 1. So that's also a little plug. If you would like a location, please go to the Widow Goals Leader application and fill it out, and then we'll set up a Zoom call and we'll talk about starting one in your location. So that's a little bit about what's happening with that. So as you guys may or may not know, one of my dreams is speaking. I mean, I do a lot of that on the podcast. But going around to retreats and speaking. So far, I've had 2 Widow Goals retreats and have spoke at both of those. But I wanted something what was like not mine, where I can just like show up and speak. And I am actually going to one in Nashville this Friday. And I'm very excited about it. It's a group of 35 widows, and I get to go and speak. I'm going to share my story about Luke, and then I'm going to share about where's God in the brokenness and do some powerful activities. And so I'm really excited about that. There's a couple more opportunities out there where I might get to speak in other locations too. So that's really what I want to do. I would love, maybe I'll do like a Widowed Too Soon podcast tour at some point if I have enough people that I could go to different cities and meet you guys in person. That would be amazing. And so that, and then the Widow Goals groups, I have a dream. I've got a dream. You know what that's from? I've got a dream. It's, what was that? My kids used to listen to that song. Dun, 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 dun. It's from Tangled. Anyways, have a dream of having like a once a year retreat / conference with all the Widow Goals groups all coming together and the leaders coming a day early. Yeah, I'm envisioning a lot of things. It's awesome. And if you're a Widow Goals leader, you get to be on once a month Zoom calls with the team and get training and have a support system. And it's an amazing thing. Also, my book is almost done. Almost. Maybe like 6 more chapters like that are half done that I need to finish. And I have a good friend, shout out to Angela Heights, who is going to be helping me with the editing. Yay. And I was really pushing for, I really want to be published, traditional publishing. It's really hard to do. I do have Harvest House said to come back to them, but I feel like I'm going to have more success just doing it myself. I know how to self-publish. I've done it with 4 books or something. And I know all of you guys now. And so I feel like you guys are going to enjoy the book. It's going to be something that's helpful for you. It's called Widow Goals, Steps to Finding Peace When You Lose Your Spouse. And it's 30 goals. And they're like individual short chapters. You don't have to read them in order. It's for men and women. And it's about different things to do to survive widowhood. And incorporated within that are pieces of my story. So very excited about getting that done. I'm hoping within the next couple months to be done and to really launch this. Another thing that I'm doing, and there'll be a link, I've got to remember to put all these links in here, is I was thinking about like, what would I want as a new widow or even a widow now? And I feel like the death anniversary, so for me, that's May 23rd, 2020, when Luke died. Every year that rolls around, nobody remembers. Like, so the first year, even my best friend forgot, but then she put it in her phone to remind her every year. Now she doesn't forget. But it seems like everybody forgets, and that day is so hard for me. And then the other hard day is our would-be anniversary, which is August 22nd. And I feel like people don't remember. And even like widow friends, it's hard for me to remember everybody's dates. And so I've decided to create a system where if you fill out this form that will be in the show notes, I will send you an email on those days. So I'm super excited about being able to, you get an email from me on that day and you feel like I'm heard, I'm seen, I'm remembered. And so please fill that out if you want me to reach out to you on your anniversary date. What else? I think that's about all. Oh, no, one more kind of fun announcement. You may have seen it here or there. I accidentally started an Etsy store. So when I went to Scottsdale with my leaders, I designed a sweatshirt for them. And it says, "Empowered Widows Empower Widows." Made up the slogan, thought it was cute. We did this kind of TikTok viral video and everybody started asking where to get the shirt. People on Facebook were asking, people's friends were asking. And so I put it in an Etsy store and it's sold a lot. And not only the sweatshirts, I now have, see this if you're watching, it's a water bottle. I have a notebook. Right here's the notebook. I have a phone case. I got a keychain last night. I got a couple more shirts, like different kinds of shirts, different kinds of sweatshirts. And it's kind of like a movement, right? Empowered widows empower widows. Think about that. Like on our own, yes, we can help some widows. But if we really want to change the world, we're going to empower those widows on their journey so they can empower other widows. Because often in this journey, because it's gotten really big between the podcast, the Facebook page, the TikTok, like all the things, I know thousands of widows, and it's very overwhelming to be like, oh my goodness, how am I going to help these people? And so that's why this movement is so important. Empowered widows empower widows. And yeah. So, anyways, I started selling those. If you are interested, because you are a listener, you get a discount. And the code I'll put in the show notes. It's just widowed too soon. Just remember it, just like the podcast is a code and you get a discount. So, that's my little plug for my Etsy store. You know, I've always been an entrepreneur, always. Like, I'm doing so many things right now that it's like a little overwhelming. But one of my passions is podcasting, and I don't get to do this very often, like by myself. And so I just really wanted, even though I'm releasing this just a tiny bit late, I was too tired last night to do it, but I knew that I wanted to do it today. And so I love it. Okay, so now let's dive into the episode. I blah blahed for 15 minutes by myself, Rob. Okay, that's a lot. If you don't know, Rob Linger used to make fun of Mark and I for blah blahing forever on the podcast, and then started making fun of just me. And here we are. So, Rob, there you go. You still have an Android. So there's that. All right. So I want to talk about some of the frequently asked questions that I get or I hear from widows. I get a lot of questions on TikTok, plus just different things I've asked over the years. So the first one I hear is, when will my life return to normal? I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but your life will never be normal again. Now, that does not mean that it can't be beautiful again. You're going to have a new normal. It's going to look different. Your life will never look exactly the same, but it can still be beautiful. So at a retreat a couple years ago, we did this activity where we told the participants, it was like a little clay pot, like draw a picture of what your life looked like before you lost your spouse. Okay. They drew it on the pots. Then we told them, now it was a little bit later, but like, break the pots. And they're like, what? So that was already emotional. We've got a video of it. It's like, it's kind of hard to break it. But then we told them, we're going to put, this is like God putting back together your life. And they took the pieces of the pot plus new, beautiful glass pieces and put it together. And if you can see this on the video, it's a little mosaic, kind of a little tile that has pieces from the pot, which is the life before the spouse, and then new beautiful pieces. And this is like how God heals our hearts, right? That our life is not going to look the same, but we are going to have a new and beautiful life. You're not going to stay in this place where you can't get out of bed. You can't do anything. I promise you, as long as you do the work, you're going to be able to have a beautiful life again. And what do I mean by do the work? That means that you're taking steps towards healing. Maybe you're in grief classes, grief recovery, grief share. You're listening to the podcast, you're reading books. You are actively trying to heal. You're seeking God, all of those things. If you do the work, you will be able to heal. Okay, next frequently asked question. When do I take off my wedding ring, or do I take it off? Okay, so this is super, super personal to you. For some reason, I decided 1 year. I don't know. I just had it in my mind at 1 year. I made a whole post about it. I took off my ring and made this whole tribute to Luke and was like, I feel like I'm ready to move forward now. And I kind of honestly, I knew, and it's not like this for everybody, but I knew that I wanted to date again. And I didn't want to look like a married woman because I wanted to look like I'm available. And so that's part of why I did it. You may not be there at all. Some people keep their wedding rings on forever, and that is completely fine. I also used to wear Luke's ring on a necklace, and I did that for about a year. Sometimes I'd throw it back on again. Now it's in my jewelry box saved for one of the boys, when they get married. But that's a totally personal question. You do what's right for you. You do you, boo, and you don't worry about what anybody thinks. Let Them. Oh my goodness. Have you read the book Let Them? Okay. Not a Christian book, but it's so good. So good. About the theory is, let them. So it's not don't care what people think. It's let them think whatever they want. And then let me, what can I control in this situation? So let people think whatever they want about you taking off your ring or whatever. It doesn't matter. Let you just control what you control. Highly recommend that book if you have not read it. All right. The next frequently asked question is like, when do I move their things? When do I go through their clothes? When do I do this? Again, super personal. I will just tell you my personal experience. I don't know. I didn't want, so I had everything the way it was when he died. I had his water he was drinking from on the nightstand. I even had his pills he was supposed to take the next morning. Literally all just sitting there on the nightstand, and I wouldn't let the kids. Now, Haley reminded me this recently. Like, I wouldn't let them touch anything. Like, don't touch it. I don't know why, but that's how I was feeling, and that's fine. That's valid. And then one day, literally, I think it was a couple months after he died, I was like, okay, I'm ready to move things. I want to move everything around in my room. I want to go through his clothes. I want to do all this. And all I did was take the clothes out of the drawer, put them in bags, and I believe put them in a closet or something at the very beginning. There's been a lot of moving around since then. I gave some to his mom. I gave some to the kids didn't really care. Haley took some t-shirts for bed. At that time, the clothes were too big, but I saved them. And recently, Hayden, my oldest, has been wearing more of his dad's shirts, which is really cool to see. One thing that I have heard over the years is that sometimes people regret it if they do throw everything away or give it away right away. So what I recommend is if you're like, I just need it out of my sight or whatever reason, like I did, just put it, box it or bag it and put it in a closet. Don't throw it away. Wait a couple more months, see how you feel. You don't want to regret that their stuff is already gone. And so that's my advice about that. Just it's completely up to you. Don't feel like you have to do it by a certain time. I've heard of people years later having things the same, and that is your prerogative. It's my prerogative. Do what I want to do. Okay, if you're a newer listener, you don't know this. Like Mark and I used to sing all the time on the podcast. And then when I have guests, I feel weird, so I don't do it. So my only chance is when I'm all by myself. So you get to hear all that. Okay, so that's what I would say about moving things. Okay, here's another one. I don't understand. I haven't gone through all the grief stages. Okay, I got big news for you. There's not actually stages, or there are, but you do not have to go through all of them. Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross created the stages for people dying, not for those grieving. Let me say that again. She created the stages, not for those, for those who were dying, not for those grieving. And so it was such a relief when I learned this that, because I was like, I didn't really go through anger. I didn't really go through denial. And yes, you can go through some of them, but you don't, what I guess my point is you don't have to go through all of them. Like they aren't even created. And even Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, when she was dying, said, yeah, I'm not sure these are even the stages for dying. So they are interesting points of reference. They are not fact. And you don't have to feel like you need to go through them. I hope that brings you relief. Grief actually comes in waves. You know what I mean, don't you? You can be like doing anything. You hear a song and boom, it's like a tidal wave knocks you out. You're in the store, you see your spouse's favorite food, boom, a wave knocks you out. You are in the mall. Let's say you're in the mall. You smell their cologne. Boom, you're out. You know what I'm saying? I remember being at church watching an old couple hold hands. Boom, a wave covered me. That's not going to be me and Luke. Like it can happen at any time. Actually, I saw this video and I want to try to recreate it. This awesome video about like what is grief like. So imagine there's a box, right? Okay, there's a box. In the bottom, there is a red button. Also, there is a ball bouncing around, and every time it hits the grief button, the red button, you're thrown into grief, right? So in the beginning, your box is very, very small. As time goes by, the box gets bigger, but it's still going to hit that every once in a while, and it's still going to hurt. And as time goes by, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's still going to hit it at times, and you're still going to be knocked out. I was knocked out recently. I had a dream about Luke that kind of knocked me into my grief the other day. Like things, there was something, I don't remember exactly, but it just happens all the time. So just know that. But know that grief's going to come in waves, not stages. All right, here's another one. How do I know when it's time to date again? How will I know when I'm ready? Well, let me tell you a little bit. Okay. So if you go, you're like, okay, I want to try this. If you go on a date and you are feeling miserable the entire time, like, oh, I feel so sick being here. I feel so guilty being here. And okay, there is a little piece, even if you are ready, that comes with that, that you do feel a little weird and guilty. But if it's like making you physically sick, like, don't do it. If you're just, it's has you in turmoil, don't do it. Like, it's not worth it. Don't let anybody push you into it or tell you it's too soon. Again, this is another thing that is completely yours and yours alone. Do not let anybody define the timeline for you for when you should date or when you should not date. This is your journey and your journey alone, and let them think what they want. And so I want to encourage you with dating I really encourage people to become whole on your own before adding a person. Like, I believe by the time I met Joel, so we started dating 18 months after Luke died. And by that time, I had found a way to be happy, joyful, peaceful without Joel. Now, he definitely has added to the joy, but he is not the source of my joy. That's only God. Only God can bring that. So I want to encourage you in your time of waiting, if you want, and if you don't want to date, totally fine. But if you do want to date, and a lot of us do, then in your time of waiting for the right person, be the best you that you can be. Find your peace and your joy in Jesus. Because if you don't find it there, like, a man's not, or a woman is not going to cure that. You're still going to be in that same place. And so that's really the way to be whole. And I feel like, so when you are whole, I mean, we're still gonna have our grief, but when you're in a peaceful place, your joy comes from the Lord, then it's a good time to step into dating and be able to do that. But I don't, there's no right exact time. Everybody's different. And you're still gonna have grief and you're still gonna miss your husband. I mean, one of my hardest days of the year is August 22nd, the day that would have been my anniversary with Luke, because I always think about, like, what would it have been like if he was still alive, and like, it was our day and our day alone. And so that's still hard for me, even though I'm married to Joel and I love him with all of my heart. Um, so that's really a personal question, but don't do it if it makes you sick to your stomach, and don't do it if you're trying to do it in order to find joy, because it's not lasting. Like, only the joy from the Lord. How long? Here's my next one. How long do I have to go through grief? Unfortunately, probably forever. Not forever, because in heaven we won't have it for the rest of your life. But the intensity and the time that it happens is less. So it's like it happens less often and less intense as time goes by if you do the work. And that's what I found personally. Some people have gone back and forth, like, it doesn't, whatever. This is my journey. In my journey, it was, and it is, less often and less intensity. And so just know that I believe it's called, there's actual scientific term, it's like acute grief or something, like the very beginning grief, that's not going to last forever. Like, you're not always going to be in this place where you just basically don't want to live anymore. I remember being there. It's not going to feel like that forever. So, like, time heals is a grief myth. So don't believe that. It's what you do with the time. But there is something that happens over time. I think it's God's way of healing. Like, the intensity of the pain is less as we move forward in time. Um, I like to say this, and the sun's coming out, right? What I'm saying, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to say this. So when you're first in grief, it's like every day is cloudy, stormy, awful, horrible. Then one day you see a little crack of sun come through, and you're like, huh, I forgot about the sun. I forgot that it could feel good and warm me, and it's nice, but that goes away real quickly and you're back in the storm. The next day or a few days later, there's a sun break for longer. And then it keeps going. And eventually half the day is sunny and half is cloudy. And then eventually 3/4 of the day is sunny and a little bit of storm. And eventually pretty much every day is sunny. You'll have some clouds here and there. Once in a while, that grief will hit you. You'll have a nasty storm. But most of the time, you're in the sun again. And so I want to encourage you that grief, it's always going to be a part of us, but it's not going to feel the same. Also, people like to do what we call stirbs. in grief recovery. It's short-term energy relieving behaviors. This is anything we do in order not to feel. It could be things like online shopping, Netflix binging, alcohol, sex, social media, blah, blah, blah. Some of them aren't necessarily bad on their own. Exercising. It's if you do these, if you're like, I'm starting to feel, boom, I'm going to do this instead. Because here's why this is so detrimental to you. If you don't feel your grief, you will never get through it. Let me say that again. If you don't feel your grief, you will never get through it, because what we feel, God can heal. Let's say it again. What we feel, God can heal. You won't heal if you don't feel. And so I always say this, you've probably heard it a million times. So it's like going on a bear hunt. I used to be a kindergarten teacher, so we used to say this one all the time. So it's like, you're going through grief. You can't go around it, can't go over it, can't go under it. Gotta go through it. Like, there's literally no other way. And that's why you can meet people 5, 10, 15 years down the road that are stuck in the same place because they didn't go through their grief. And so I want to encourage you today. Anytime you start feeling your pain, let the tears flow. I don't care where you're at. Let those tears flow. Let them think whatever you want. This is your journey and your journey alone. And I want you to heal from this journey. So let yourself feel the feelings and let God be the one to come in and comfort you and give you the peace that passes all understanding. Don't stop your grief. I'm telling you, I don't care where you're at. Don't stop your grief. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I want you to heal. It doesn't matter what anybody, like the next door neighbor, the person down the street, your mom, your dog, your cat, it doesn't matter. Your best friend, doesn't matter. Let them think what they want and let you feel the feelings so you heal. Okay, I get a little passionate about that one because I want all of you to heal. So let yourself feel it. I see the people that come into grief recovery. They don't want to feel it. They don't want to feel it. Don't want to feel it. But then they start feeling it. And that's when they heal. And I want to encourage you, don't be afraid of your past. Don't be afraid about looking at the hard things. Okay, here's something. I don't know who made up this dumb saying. I heard it somewhere. Don't speak ill of the dead. I mean, what a dumb sentence. So in the beginning, I would not let myself think of memories that were hard. Okay, every marriage is hard. There's no perfect marriages. So yeah, I had hard things with Luke that I didn't want to think about. But my counselor said to me one day, these are facts, they happened. You can think about them. And it was only then could I really heal from those things. And I've never publicly spoken on any of this, but there were hard things. And once I started to let myself feel and think of the things in the past, I was able to truly heal and let go of the pain. And I want that for you too. So I give you permission to think of the hard things, think of the things that like are not pleasant because they're part of your past. And that way, bring them to God. Say, hey, this hurts my heart. I'm thinking about this memory. My spouse isn't here to talk to about this anymore. I need to talk to you. Like, can you heal my heart? Can you help me let go of the pain that is deep inside, that I don't share with anybody, that I don't share publicly, that I don't want people to know, but it's real, God. Can you please heal me of that? And he will. He will. Whew. I feel like I'm preaching a sermon. All right, just a couple more. How do I survive the holidays? Okay, I've done several podcasts on it. So you can go back to surviving the holidays, surviving Valentine's Day, surviving blah, blah, blah. So we have a lot. So I'm just going to barely touch on that, but just to put it all in this nice little frequently asked questions. One day at a time and have a plan. I think that's one of the biggest things. Have a plan. Don't just go into it blindly, like whatever, like have a plan. So you might want to, if you're going to be at a crowded place like Christmas or something, you might have a plan that you can escape. You've got your own car. You might want to do something different. Our first Thanksgiving, we went to Great Wolf Lodge. Like it's a hotel with a water park. I didn't want to have a regular Thanksgiving. Christmas, we kept a lot of the same things, but we went to a different tree farm. Like we changed things up because I tried the same pumpkin patch and it was horrible that first year because it was like the whole of Luke not being there was so big. It was so awful. And my kids were outgrowing it. So it wasn't a pleasant experience. But have a plan, like know what you're going to do on those days. The anniversary of the death, just know you're going to want to be by yourself a little bit. I personally, this is my personal story. I had my family over and we wrote on balloons messages to Luke and we released them. And please don't come after me that that's not environmentally friendly. It's what I needed to do. I've had some people on TikTok. I'm like, don't talk to me about all this. Say that you shouldn't have done that. But I guess there are biodegradable balloons. Anyways, so I had everybody over. We ate grilled cheese sandwich because that was the last meal that Luke ate. That's a whole story. And we watched a video about him. And that's how I processed it. Some people don't want to do anything big like that. Now, what we do every single year is we go to Red Robin, which was Luke's favorite restaurant. And the kids, they used to share memories. Now they share an accomplishment. I say, what is something, if daddy was sitting right here, what would you want to tell him that you accomplished in this past year? And that's become a beautiful thing to watch them do that. I mean, it brings tears to my eyes to think, you know, just about that. Like that for me now in my almost 5 years out and remarried, like no one will ever replace Luke, but I have had someone in that role. So I don't have all the loneliness. I don't have all of that. So my biggest grief is for my kids, like them not having their dad at all those big moments. All of my kids getting their licenses, two of them graduating and going to college. Just like all these moments that are so difficult that I want to be like, I want him here. But anyways, I would say for holidays, big days, have a plan. And I would listen to those episodes for more in depth about ways to do that. All right, that's a lot of frequently asked questions. I might actually put out something later to say, write your frequently asked questions. I've also had, I kind of touched on that, like, how could you must not have loved your husband? This comes from non widows, though. You must not have loved your husband if you got married again. Okay, you guys. One love, it's like the cup thing I just talked about. One love does not cancel out the other. Okay. It's not like if I choose this one, I don't love this one. No, I love them both. Like it's a totally different thing. But I guess I just want to encourage you in this really hard journey. I was like you. I was in a really dark space. In fact, a while back, I'll have to look up which episode it is. I made a podcast like a couple weeks after Luke died on a different podcast, but I reposted it here because I wanted you to see where I came from. I was in that place. I don't have it in front of me, but you can look back. It says something about where I used to be. I used to be in that horrible place that I would never wish on anybody. But God, like God does the healing. He really will meet you where you're at. He will help you with your broken heart. God doesn't say that we won't go through things, right? Isaiah 43, is it 2? But when you go through the deep waters, I will be with you. Like he won't let us drown, but we will have to go through hard things. Like we will. And if you're listening to this podcast, I guarantee you've been through hard things, and so he promises he will be with us and he will turn our mourning into dancing. Like for me, it's literal dancing because I love to dance. If you don't like to dance, you just imagine it. And he will make beauty out of ashes. Like we were actually having this honest conversation the other day with the kids. And I have one child who still struggling with, how can God be good? How can this be God's will if daddy died? And that is a hard question, right? But it's that trusting in the bigger picture, in the eternal perspective, that no, daddy's actually healed. And God didn't say we wouldn't go through hard things, but he's promised to be with us. And I was able to tell one of my kids, I have seen God make beauty out of ashes with my widow's ministry. We are now, I just checked it, I hadn't checked in forever. This podcast goes out to over 100 countries. That's literally go into all the world. I mean, I'm not quite all the world yet, but it's getting there. And the thousands of widows on my TikTok and my Facebook page and my widows groups and my grief recovery. I'm not saying this to brag about me. I'm bragging about God. I'm bragging about I was in the depths of the brokenness. I was in the depths of, I didn't know how I could go on even one more day. But God, he came in and he healed my heart. And not only did he heal my heart, he gave me a place to help other people. This ministry was born because of God. Like there's no other explanation. And I get humbling emails and texts quite often of how this podcast has helped people and changed their lives. And I give the glory to God because this isn't me. I'm a human just doing the best I can every day. And I just want to thank you for being here and listening, and know that, like, my biggest thing in life, I guess, I want is for everyone to know Jesus, number one. But I want people to know John 10:10. We were made to live life and live life abundantly. We were made, this is not a verse, but we were made to not only survive, but thrive. The whole motto of Widow Goals is widows helping widows not only survive, but thrive. And that's really my goal in life. I want to inspire people and encourage. All I wanted when I was a little baby newborn widow, I wanted to know it would get better because I felt like there was no hope. And I had widows that I reached out to and they told me it would get better. And that was one of the best things that happened. And so I feel like my job is to turn it around and tell you the same thing. You, new baby widow, I see you. You, widow who's been here a few years, it doesn't matter. I see you. I see your pain. God sees it even more. Like, did you know, don't know the reference, that God actually collects all our tears in a bottle? Like, it's got to be like 1 billion bottles for me, probably for you. But what a powerful visual. Look it up. There's a verse about it. That he collects our tears in a bottle. Like, it's got to be like, supersized. But, there's a lot of tears. I'm a pretty emotional person, so tears. Anyways, I think I'm wrapping this up. I would like to pray for you guys. Dear God, I just thank you for every single listener within the sound of my voice right now. They're not here by accident. God, I just pray that you just give them peace. I know I pray it every week, but I feel it so strongly. The peace that passes all understanding, God, go into those cracks of their hearts and fill them in a way that only you can. God, let them know that it's going to get better. Let them know that you will restore their joy. Let them know that you will give them beauty for ashes. You will take their mourning and you will turn it into dancing. You've done it for me. I know you're going to do it for them. Just give them a piece of joy today. I just pray that somebody says something in their life that encourages them. God, I pray that they draw close to you. You say, as we seek you with our whole heart, you will find it. We will find you. And so I just pray that everybody listening will seek you and you will meet them in new ways, in the darkness and the sadness in the middle of the night when it feels so lonely and broken. I remember so clearly those nights, God. I just pray that you just cover them in a new way. You love your orphans and widows. You say you are a defender of the widow and a father to the fatherless, which is us and our kids. And so I just pray that you just give them peace and joy. Amen. Oh, I get so emotional. When I do these podcasts alone, it's a new depth. Like, I feel like I can be 1,000,000% myself. I'm not holding back. I'm not worried what I was thinking because, like, while I'm recording, there's nobody here. And I feel like I'm able to fully step into who I was created to be. There's a lot behind all of this. And sometimes we have to go through pain. We have to go through the pruning. We have to go through it in order to become who God created us to be. And I feel like through this podcast and through recently doing alone episodes, I'm able to really fully share what's in my heart because I have nobody with me. And I don't know, there's something different about it. I mean, I have God with me, and that's it. He's telling me. He helps me with what to say. And yes, and if you get this podcast before Friday the 28th or actually Saturday, March 1st, please pray that my speaking will really get into these widows' hearts. I'm speaking to 35 widows in Nashville, and but they will grow closer to God in this event. And anyways, if you like this podcast, you can give it a little 5 stars, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the places. Please, you can be part of our small widows group. You know about that. If you have a story, please apply to be a guest. Everyone has a story. We'd love to hear yours. If you want something from Empower Widows, we've got the code in the Etsy store, all the things. I'm tired. So I'm not remembering if I'm saying everything. I get like a little bit like emotionally exhausted when I do these episodes, but it's so good. It's like I am living my passion. Like this is my passion and I love it. And I love you guys. Even though I don't know you all personally, I know your hearts. I know what it's like to be widowed and I know what it's like just going through this journey. So anyways, love you all and we'll talk to you next time. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Widowed Too Soon with Michelle Bader Ebersole. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, rate and review. And we'd also love for you to join our Widowed Too Soon community on Facebook. See you next time.